Hello, it's Isaiah France, and welcome to episode 5 of season 2 of the Fantastic Fan Show. Today we're going to be discussing my ebooks plus my audiobooks, but before we get started, cue the intro. Hi, and welcome back. So today we're going to be discussing my ebooks plus my audiobooks. As you don't know, guys, I have ebooks of my existing paperback books, plus I have an ebook exclusive. So I wanted to showcase this off today. I wanted to show you first what Detective John, the all three books in one collection, small book edition, looks like on ebook. So this is on Apple Books, and this is what it looks like on Apple Books, as you can see. That's what it looks like there. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and it's a little bit different from cover than the paperback, but I wanted to show you that. Also, I wanted to show you guys the ebook exclusive, which I didn't show in the last episode because obviously it's an ebook exclusive. But I wanted to show you this. This is Before Tasha, and Before Tasha is an ebook exclusive prequel to Tasha the Last Princess Warrior. It's pretty short, but it's a very cool prequel. If you haven't checked out already, I recommend checking that out. It's a pretty cool prequel. So it's on Apple Books and a few other places, well, basically everywhere that has sells ebooks. But yeah, and then this is Tasha the Last Princess Warrior, right here on Apple Books. It's a little bit cheaper than the paperback, so it's pretty cool. If you haven't checked that book out already, it's pretty cool. Now, the other thing I wanted to show off today was my audiobooks. Now, my audiobooks are pretty cool. I wanted to kind of maybe play a bit of what samples of what my audiobooks sound like so you can understand, because they're narrated by a narrator named Janet Erickson, who's done a bunch of other works on people's audiobooks and stuff, like other authors' audiobooks. And I wanted to show you guys a little taste of her work with my audiobooks. So the first one I wanted to show you was Before Tasha. Now, here's the thing, guys. One of these audiobooks is actually not out yet. There's another, the Tasha the Last Princess Warrior audiobook is coming out March 21st. So you're gonna get a little bit of a sneak peek of that one too. So I'm pretty excited for that. But first, we're gonna go and listen to Before Tasha sample. So here we go.
Before Tasha, written by Isaiah Franson, narrated by Janet Erickson. Chapter 1, The Great War. I'm a princess warrior. My name is Sarah, and our kingdom is at war over my sword.
Yeah, so this
My
is very
sword has
cool.
magical powers which can only be in the hands of a princess whose heart is pure. If it ever ends up in the hands of someone who is not a princess, or doesn't have a pure heart, it will open up a portal, bringing a creature of pure destruction. My mom and dad, King Mike and Queen Sophie, are about to have a baby.
I like this. It's very cool.
I'm heading into the forest on my horse named Crystal to meet the trolls and
I
discuss
think the
what
trolls
to
is
do.
quite funny because he
So
actually
Sarah
voices
and
these
Crystal
characters
headed into
too.
the
So
forest and made it to the trolls' camp where they met the leader of the trolls. He said, "You must stop. Not the Dark King who is causing the war, but his royal guard named Russell. I fear Russell's heart will be darker than anyone else's. He's next in line for the throne, and you must stop him." "I understand," said Sarah. So both Sarah and her horse Crystal set off to find Russell of the Royal Guard. They ended up at a village where the villagers were having a party. Suddenly, the Royal Guards swarmed the village. As they were attacking, they spotted Sarah with her sword. "Let's get her," they yelled. Sarah pulled out her sword and started to fight. The sword turned to fire and started taking out all the guards. The villagers started cheering for Sarah. The Royal Guards regrouped and they started coming after her again. Then the sword turned to ice and froze the guards. Finally, the sword turned to water and it put out all the fires which the guards had started. The villagers were so grateful. Sarah was very touched but said, "We must get going to find Russell." Meanwhile, one of the guards, who had escaped from the village, reported back to Russell of the Royal Guard. "We were attacked by the princess and her sword at the village." Russell screamed, "What? We must get her now, and I have a plan." Chapter 2. An evil plot unfolds.
This is a very long sample. So
Sarah and her horse Crystal were heading up the mountain to find Russell of the Royal Guard. All of a sudden, they heard firing. The Royal Guards were firing cannonballs at them. They started to run away as fast as they could. However, they came to a dead end, and Sarah didn't know what to do. Then she saw a ledge a little above them, and she got on Crystal and they jumped and made it to the ledge. On the ledge, she saw what appeared to be a cave. They quickly ran into the cave. Once they got into the cave, it was very dark, so she used the sword on fire as a light, and they went deeper into the cave. All of a sudden, they heard something. It turned out to be a swarm of bats, and they started running as fast as they could. They made it to the other end of the cave, but once they got to the other side, there were guards waiting for them. She used the...
So that was the first, the sample before Tasha. And yeah, so that is a very cool audiobook. I recommend that you check that one out. Now, we are going to take a look at Tasha, the Last Princess Warrior. And this is one I'm really excited for, because this was not out yet, so here's the first sneak peek of Tasha, the Last Princess Warrior audiobook. It is also narrated by the same person, Jan Annexon.
Tasha, the Last Princess Warrior. Written by Isaiah Franson. Narrated by Janet Erickson. Chapter 1. Interesting Things Unfold. One day there was a princess named Tasha. Life was pretty boring for this young girl, as she was always looking for adventure. However, she had no time for that kind of stuff, as she was very busy fulfilling her duties as princess. Meanwhile, her dad, King Mike, and her mom, Queen Sophie, were busy negotiating with their neighbors and keeping the peace. One day, her dad, King Mike, came upstairs and said, "Our neighbors are coming to visit, and we need you downstairs." She said, "Okay, be right down." Their neighbors were King Russell and Queen Petunia. They were always very grumpy and very rude to her dad, King Mike, and her mom, Queen Sophie, so Tasha headed downstairs. There she saw her dad, King Mike, and her mom, Queen Sophie, both on their thrones. Just then, King Russell and Queen Petunia arrived. They began talking about how to keep the peace between the two of them. King Russell and Queen Petunia were asking about a certain sword that was supposedly hidden somewhere in the castle. However, King Mike and Queen Sophie said it is top secret and nobody can see the sword but them. King Russell and Queen Petunia said, "Well, if we don't get to see the sword, then you will pay," and they left the room. From the back of the room, Tasha said, "What was that all about?" King Mike replied, "Don't worry about it." "What is this sword you're speaking of?" asked Tasha. "It is a sword that used to belong to your sister," said King Mike. "I had a sister?" replied Tasha, and King Mike said, "Yes, She was one of the few princess warriors who had a really powerful sword that had magical powers. Unfortunately, she perished while battling in a war. Ever since then, her sword has remained in the castle untouched. King Mike said, "Anyways, we have to get ready for the royal fair, which is happening later today." So Tasha said, "Okay, I will head back up to my room and get ready." Finally, everyone was ready to leave the castle and go to the fair. They headed off into town to the fair. Once they arrived, they were greeted by the villagers and everyone was having fun. There was a pie-eating contest, a parade, and archery all taking place at the same time. And then, all of a sudden, they heard explosions at the castle, and everyone in the village was panicking. King Mike, Queen Sophie, and Tasha all said, "We need to get back to the castle right away." Chapter 2. Castle Under Siege.
It is also a very long sample.
King Mike, Queen Sophie, and Tasha were hurrying back to the castle as the castle was under attack. All of a sudden, when they got there, they saw 2 guards that weren't theirs, and they started to come after them. King Mike said, "Who are you and what do you want?" The guards quickly used their swords against them. King Mike tried to fight back. However, he was hit by one of their swords and was badly hurt. Queen Sophie and Tasha were like, "Oh no!" They both took out the guards and headed over to King Mike. He was so badly hurt that he was dying. King Mike said, "You both must get to the sword before they do." Tasha said, "No, Dad, I can't leave you here." Queen Sophie said, "We have no other choice, I'm afraid, dear." Tasha was crying, but they both had to get to the sword. They quickly left King Mike and headed inside the castle. Meanwhile, King Russell and Queen Petunia found the chamber where the sword was hidden. Shortly after, however, Queen Sophie and Tasha stepped into the chamber and found them there. Queen Sophie said, "How could you guys do this? You don't know what power that sword holds." "Oh yes we do, and it's going to make us the most powerful rulers of all the land." Queen Sophie was like, "You have to be joking." King Russell and Queen Petunia both said, "No, we're not." They sent more of their guards after Queen Sophie and Tasha. All of a sudden, King Russell grabbed the sword. However, the sword was too powerful, and the chamber started to collapse. King Russell said to Queen Petunia, "Forget the sword for now, we have to get out of here." So they quickly escaped through another entrance to the chamber. However, before they left, they said,
And that is a sample of Tasha the Last Princess Warrior audiobook, which is coming out March 21st. Isn't that really interesting, eh? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode and stay tuned for next episode. Bye.